How are you doing?
Hey, I love you.
How are you?
Hello.
Let's go!
Hey everyone, welcome to Are You OK? I'm Ebony.
And I'm May. This is a show about sharing honest conversations, sometimes messy, sometimes insightful, but always authentic.
We're serving up a slice of chaos and comfort as we navigate our life in our 20s.
So whether you're listening while commuting, doing your laundry, or just avoiding your responsibilities, we're so glad you are here.
So I'm checking in from the lands of the Ngunnawal people, and I'm honoured to pay my respects to the true custodians of Australia and to practice the important art of storytelling through this podcast.
From my end, Mabuhay Philippines, I am still checking in from Manila. It is my last couple of weeks here, and I am so sad to be leaving this city, but the sun is out. It's a very beautiful day, and yeah, I'm really excited to record this podcast.
Every episode we do a weekly recommendation, so May, do you want to start with your weekly rec?
Sure thing. So my weekly rec is something I've been working really hard on for the past couple of weeks, and it is to spend 30 minutes to an hour device free straight after I wake up. So I've been trying to fill my mornings in with some movement, with yoga, or even just stepping outside for a little bit, drinking my cup of coffee, but just trying to be more mindful and present, because something that I've noticed is that when I start my day instantly on my phone or on my laptop, then it kind of sets my day up to be quite technological and digital, and I don't feel as mindful. And so yeah, it's been a really nice way to check in with myself, my body, and where my head's at before I start the day. But yeah, I would strongly recommend trying it out. Just wake up one morning, leave your devices. It can be just 15 minutes to start off. I do an hour because it feels just so nice to just sit and eat my breakfast, you know, in just the peace and tranquility of life, which sounds kind of crazy. I sound like a yogi master or something.
But you know what's funny? I was literally thinking about this morning because yesterday morning I had work, so I was like up, and when I have work, I get up, I get ready straight away. Like I don't go on my phone for probably the first hour because I'm like just doing my morning stuff, whatever. But this morning I like had a bit of extra time because I was just gonna study today, and I went on my phone, and then I was like, damn, I just feel like I'm in such a bad mindset already. So I get it. I love that rec.
Thank you. And Ebony, what's your weekly rec?
Well, okay, so right now I'm really hustling on uni. I have literally not even 2 weeks left of my degree, which is crazy. Anyway, I have 2 recommendations. One is kind of silly, but basically, I don't know if anyone is at university who's listening to this, but there was a Canvas outage. And if you don't know what Canvas is, it is the learning platform that we use for uni. Like, I think 9,000 universities in the world use Canvas, which I found out this week, because 9,000 universities were affected by, basically there was a big data breach. So they had to shut down Canvas, which all my lectures are on, all my assignments, literally everything's on Canvas. And I went to go submit my assignment on Friday, and I reloaded the page, and it was like, Canvas is down. Checked my emails, and it's like, oh, you can't actually do anything today. Like, everything's going to be extended. And then I was like, wait, this is great. And I was like telling May, I'm like, you know what my weekly recommendation is? It's going to be for more Canvas outages. But that is bad because data breaches are not good. But it gave me an extra week extension on one of my assignments that I've been putting off. So I was so grateful because now I have more time to work on it. And yeah, it made me so happy. So that was my first recommendation. But my actual real recommendation is a Pomodoro timer when you're studying.
Ooh, yes.
I'm in my study era, and I went to the library today, and in the previous weeks I've been very unproductive with my work, and it's because I've just sat myself down on my desk and said to myself, okay, do something, like just do your work. And I'm like, that just does not work for me. So I decided to go to the library today, get out of my space, and I set up a schedule of every 25 minutes of what I'm going to be doing. So for this block of 25 minutes, I'm going to focus on this. For this 25 minutes, I'm going to focus on this. And if you don't know what a Pomodoro timer is, so this is a long recommendation, but it's basically a timer where you do 25 minutes of hard, focused, solid work, and then you have a 5-minute break and you get up and you walk around, or you just I don't know, scroll on your phone or something. But that works really well for me because I struggle a little bit to focus. It has been a game changer for studying, and I feel like I could probably do my work 50% faster doing the Pomodoro method. So that's my rec.
I love that rec. And I feel like both of our recommendations were very much to do with technology, which is such a perfect segue.
May,
Yes?
you are so right. Why is that a perfect segue?
it's a perfect segue because for theme 8 of this podcast, we are covering the online world. And so let's unpack that a little bit. So Ebony and I were sitting down and we were thinking, what's something that we can all relate to as young people in their 20s? And an experience that came to us was having an education system and a childhood that encompassed a lot of technology and online spaces. For us Gen Zs, we grew up with the internet in our pockets. And I feel like for a lot of us, it is how we connect with our friends now. It really shapes how we think and how we relate and how we create things, and also just in a lot of ways shapes our identities as well. We have this online identity now as well as what we have in our physical world as well. So I guess we wanted to share our insights on what we have learned from growing up with technology and how that impacts our everyday reality.
So, over the next 3 episodes, we're going to be focusing on the online world, and we're going to talk about everything from growing up either without technology or with technology. We're going to talk about like the first times we really started relying on technology and just kind of how technology influences our life, because as May said, it's such a big thing. Like, we use it for everything. I don't think there's like anything really that we don't use the internet for, like other than your basics like cooking, cleaning, like walking around. And on today's duo episode, we are going to be focusing on growing up with technology. So, let's go! So May, as we kind of hinted at, I feel like Gen Z, we are kind of the last generation to grow up without like relying heavily on technology. I know, as we were saying, we saw like the hints of it as we were like growing up. Whereas now I feel like there's just like so much more of a reliance. And I mean, millennials before us were even less reliant on technology. But I wanted to ask, because I don't know about you, but I feel like every year people get phones like earlier and earlier. I feel like the median age to get a phone when we were younger was maybe like as soon as you hit like teenager, like 13 or something. But now I know my 9-year-old cousin has a phone, and I was like, what? I wouldn't even know how to use a phone at 9 years old. But when did you get your first phone? I feel like that's so interesting because it's so different for everyone. Yeah, so I thought I'd ask.
Okay, that is a really interesting question because my first recollection of getting my first phone was actually in primary school. I think I was around, I want to say 10 years old. My dad gave me his hand-me-down Nokia phone. It's the classic brick phone for those who know. They're like super small.
Like we had to press the buttons 3 times to get like a certain letter.
Yeah, exactly those ones.
I love that. Oh my god.
I think mum gave it to me to like probably, you know, contact emergencies. But the only reason I used it was to play Snakes and Ladders. What is it called? No, Slytherin. What's it called?
Isn't that Snakes and Ladders?
Oh, I'm gonna sound so old. What is it called? No, it's like the OG version of that one. Basically, the snake like goes around. Anyways, and also the one where you like build the blocks and then it deletes a block once you complete it. Complete a line. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I just can't think of the name.
Oh my gosh. This
With like
is
the
such a...
would ask about games. Like...
No, for real.
have
Both of us do not play games. No. But yeah, the name escapes me, but essentially it's the one where the blocks fall down from the top and then you have to arrange them in a way that you get a line full of blocks and then it deletes the block and then clears the space and then you start again. And you try and get as many blocks cleared as you can. But that is literally the only reason that I had my Nokia phone. And sadly enough, I also had to say goodbye to that phone like a few months later because I was stupid enough to keep my phone in my pocket, and I was getting ready for gymnastics training, I think, and I was doing cartwheels on a brick road. And the Nokia may have fallen out of my pocket and broken into like many pieces.
Thought you were going to say someone stole your Nokia phone. I was like, bro, who would want to steal that? No hate though, because I also had one, so no hate.
Really? Oh wait, I want to hear your story. When was the first time you got your phone?
Well, this is actually quite interesting. I was pretty late on getting a phone. I was that kid who used to like ask my friends to ring my mom or like text my mom if the bus was late, or I'd be like, "Do you have any games on your phone?" Like to my friend and like borrow a phone. Or like I'd be like, "Can I make a Musically on your phone?" I was that
Oh
person.
my gosh.
Anyway.
Anyways.
When I got a job, my first job was at Spotlight. I was 16 years old and I was going to my first trial shift. Previously to that, at the interview, I was telling my boss who was interviewing me how I didn't have a phone. So I had to give him my mum's number to ring to tell my mum if I got the job, which is kind of silly. Anyway, and he was one of those people that really loved the fact that I didn't have a phone. Like he's very, very like, you know, kids these days are always in their phone. He just loved the fact that I didn't have a phone. Anyway, so he rang my mum. I got the job. It was great. And so my first trial shift, my dad gave me his old Nokia phone, literally the same Nokia, like where you had to press the 3 little buttons. Because my dad got like an updated phone from his work. Dad had that phone for so many years. Like he was using it when he shouldn't have been using it. Like he should have updated to an iPhone like way before. Like he was uncontactable. Let's be real. But anyway, we had fun with that phone. But yeah, so it was my trial shift and I had it in my bag in my manager's office because I didn't have a locker at the time and it was like safe in his office and whatever. And I was on shift and he like called me and he's like, "Ebony, I thought you didn't have a phone, but I keep hearing something like go off in your bag." And it was my dad's Nokia phone. And he was like, "I thought you didn't have a phone." And I just remember feeling like he was just disappointed in me at that time. And I was like, "No, you don't understand. I have this little brick phone." Anyway, so that was my first phone when I was 16. And then like a few months later, my auntie was updating because I was like, I actually need like a proper phone to be able to do things, you know, use online banking and like all the things you need when you have a job. So yeah, I updated to a little, I think it was iPhone X at the time, and I thought it was so cool. But yeah, that's the story of when I got a first phone. I feel like it was a lot later than most people, but I don't know. I just had a kind of a family who was a bit like against technology and social media and all that. I remember I had Instagram on my iPad for like years, and that was fun to use. But anyway.
That's so cute. Honestly, I feel like we shared a similar upbringing in terms of when we first accessed our own devices. My family was not against technology at all. My sister was addicted to her iPad. No, not the iPad, the iPod. Do you remember?
My God,
iPods?
I did have an iPod. I will say I did have an iPod.
No, you didn't.
It also was personalized, and I got it for my 9th birthday because my older brother got one for his birthday. So, like, of course, I couldn't miss out. It said "Happy 9th birthday" on it.
Oh, that's so cute.
And guess what color it was?
I don't know. What was it?
Hot pink. iPod Touch. Hot pink.
That's so good. Oh, I love. Oh, this is such a throwback. No, so my sister, she had an iPod that looked like an iPhone. You know, the ones with the screen, but it didn't have like a SIM card or anything.
Yeah.
And
I had the
my
same
sister, my sister got that when she was probably like 9 or something like that. And I was just like, I'm not interested. I don't know. Maybe it was like my own ego, but I was like, no, I'm so much cooler because I don't have a phone. I don't need one. I'm not dependent. And then, but I remember, I
was just going to say, I feel like you hear people, I just remember I'd be at the bus interchange and Dad would be like, "Oh, look at that person on their phone," or in public, "Oh, look at this person on their phone." I feel like we've kind of had the similar thing of like, you feel bad because you've been told it's kind of a bad thing. But yeah.
That's true. I think, well, my parents didn't really care, but maybe it was my Steiner education. I think it was school that was like, yeah, we're a phone-free zone. What Steiner, do you ask?
Sorry, what's the Steiner school?
For those who don't know, we covered what a Steiner school was, and if you want to learn more, just listen to that episode.
Can you explain it in like one sentence, May?
Yes,
For our
I actually can.
audiences who don't know what a Steiner school education is.
So Steiner education was developed in Germany, and you might know it as Waldorfschule for those who know German. And essentially it focuses on developing the child more holistically. So we learn things that are beyond just a standardized maths, English, sciences. We also learn how to cook, for example. We learn interdisciplinary studies. We learn arts and crafts. We do lots of different things. So it's a very holistic education system. And also is very nature-based. And so a lot of our childhood, we didn't really grow up using devices at all. Well, especially for my primary school years. But I don't know about you, Ebony, because you grew up in a Catholic school, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So for the first 4 years of my schooling, I was at a Catholic school, and then I went to a Steiner school, which was a huge switch up because it was like going back in time, I feel. One thing about Steiner schools is that they were very not keen on technology, especially just the whole community and the parents as well. I don't know if you remember Screen Free Week, May. Do you remember this? There used to be signs up at school being Screen Free Week, this date to this date. We're encouraging everyone to not use screens for a whole week. Can you imagine doing that now? I feel like that would just not work.
It honestly kind of sounds like the interventions that they use now for people who are, especially young people who are highly addicted to their phones.
The thing is, they were not addicted to their phones because they were all Steiner kids. It was random.
That's so
But
odd.
yeah, I know what you mean. Wait, do you remember having to watch that documentary called Screen Ages?
Bro, you are testing my memory. I probably watched it though.
It was basically they made the whole school come and watch this thing in the big hall, and it was a documentary on screen ages and how watching screens is rotting your brain. It actually scared me. I was fully scared. I was just very gullible though, because it showed this thing about how this guy would stay up and play his Xbox all night, and he just got really sick and he couldn't live a normal life.
Ebony's
He was,
freaking
nocturnal,
out. Meanwhile, she has a Nokia phone.
I took life very seriously. I took what the teachers told me very seriously. All the classes on drugs, I actually was shocked. I was I'd feel sick after this class. Okay, I feel like I'm going on a tangent. Stop.
No, I love that though. Oh, that's so funny. Well, that's such a full 180 to where you are now, Ebony. You are a content creator with thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers. What is going on? What's that all about?
Honestly, little Ebony would have been shocked. I feel like she may have been disappointed, but I also feel like
Really?
times have changed. I've loosened up a little bit, let's be real. But yeah, no, it's actually crazy. I was scared of technology. I just wasn't into it really. I remember my screen time in year 12 was at 50 minutes a day. I remember I was telling a guy in our class, he's mine's 9 hours a day, and I'm what? Now mine's closer to that because I'm always editing. But anyway, yeah, crazy 180. Do you know what one thing that both my brother and May always do? That is delete Instagram and then re-download it and then be guys, I'm not going to be using Instagram. I'm done with Instagram. I'm done with doom scrolling. And then next minute, the other day, I saw Tommy scrolling in his room. I'm Tommy, didn't you just make a big announcement to me that you just deleted Instagram? And he's oh yeah, but I just wanted to look at this one thing. I'm Anyway, so May.
Yes.
Do you feel you don't enjoy Instagram because it makes you doom scroll, or what is the reason for you to feel you want to delete it all the time?
Good question. I feel I was thrown under the bus just then, but way to expose me. And did I really re-download Instagram this morning? Quite possibly.
Yeah,
honestly,
miss, I only use Instagram on my browser. Bruh.
Okay, that was back in the day. You don't understand, guys. Honestly, I grew up so digitally free, and I'm so grateful for that. So yeah, as Ebony said, I used to use Instagram on my browser. My phone used to be cracked in 5 pieces on the screen. It was not a good sight to see at all. But yes, the main reason I would say that I delete Instagram is that, including doom scrolling and the infinite reel scroll, there's just so many distractions. There's advertisements, there's I guess the sense of FOMO, that feeling of, you constantly have a need to be updated about every person's life. Sometimes I look at stories and I'm love that for them, but I don't really care. It's not really relevant to my life, you know what I mean? And then I catch myself in those moments why am I doing this? What is the purpose of me spending the next hour or two looking at other people's lives, I get this question a lot because a lot of people, when they realize, I've never had Snapchat in my life. I don't plan to ever get it. And I've only downloaded Instagram when I was in late high school, late high school. And TikTok was actually something I'm getting used to. It's only been, like 2 months maybe.
Yeah. I've been trying to
Yeah.
get May onto TikTok
Yeah.
for like years and
For
years.
years.
But
I'm a fake fan of Ebony May Bakes. I'm sorry. I never followed her until this year.
or maybe
Because-
maybe you're the realist because
Oh,
you get the real me. No, not that I'm fake.
I get the
online,
real
but, like,
Ebony. That's
like
right.
real conversations, like face to face, even though
Or
you're in the
it's screen
Philippines.
to screen. But yeah, I think mainly the distractions. And then for those who know me, I'm so like such an advocate for mental health, and doing mindful exercises has really made me realize what my mind feels like when it's mindful and present. And whenever I'm on Instagram or on social media in general, I don't feel those things at all. Like I don't feel present at all, and I know what that feels like. So I think my mind's like, wait, I don't really like this. Can we like
Yeah.
not do this? And so yeah, I think it's just my brain. And then I know that these devices and these apps are literally built to sustain our
Keep you on
attention,
the app.
right? So
Yeah.
to keep us on the app. So we need to actively fight that. So I guess my way of giving myself that boundary and that space is to just delete the app. So then it's like out of sight, out of mind, I guess.
Out of
And if
sight,
I
out
need
of
to,
mind.
yeah, and usually when I need to download it, I would have a set intention. So like, for example, this morning, I went on Canva, I created these carousel slides and images to upload for a post. Very, very specific intentions. When I downloaded Instagram again, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Like I hit post as soon as I got on there, and then I just sent a couple of messages to reply to people, and then that was it. So, yeah.
Yeah. I was going to ask about that with doom scrolling, because if you don't know, May is a psychology student. Is there a psychological thing behind doom scrolling? Because when I feel like I want to escape like feelings or something's too hard and I don't want to do it, I'll doom scroll. And I hate that. I hate that I do that. But is there like a psychological thing behind that?
Yes. So I won't get into the nitty gritty of everything, but essentially what it is giving us a tool for avoidance. And in a lot of ways, it's similar to people abusing drugs, for example, or depending on maladaptive behaviors to help them avoid certain situations, like they want to procrastinate or they want to ignore certain emotions that are making them uncomfortable. Yeah, so I think a lot of people, how we see social media now and how science treats it now is that it actually genuinely might be an addiction. And it is addictive, and that's the fundamental thing that brings a lot of people back to it, even when they know doom scrolling does nothing for them except waste time. And yeah, so in a lot of ways, it feels like an addiction. It gives us a spike of like serotonin, dopamine boost. It feels like we're connected to society and the world, and give us space from the thing that's making us uncomfortable. And it's something that we rely on. It's very easy to access. For example, with drugs, you need to source them, you need to take them, you know, and then you feel the effects. Social media, you just open up your phone, and that's
It's also
that,
illegal.
So yes, drugs are illegal, so let's not do that. Let's not go there. It's the same mechanisms, same as like gambling, for example. It's that thrill, that rush of like, oh, this is exciting, but momentarily, and then the after effects is like, oh, why did I waste my time? Why did I waste my money on this? But yeah, essentially it's just another type of avoidance mechanism is how I'd say it.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. It helps me like understand it a bit more. So on this note of doom scrolling, I have a little challenge for you guys. I want you to like just pause this, and I want you to think about the last 3 either TikToks or Instagram reels that you watched, and I want you to explain to yourself like what they were and what you learned from it. Because I know for me, sometimes I'll go on TikTok and I'm like, this is good because I learn heaps from TikTok, which I have learned some cool things from TikTok. But sometimes I go and I'm like, yeah, this is not a waste of time because I'm learning. But then I think about, like right now, I don't know what the last reel was that I watched. I can't even think about what I learned from that. So I want you guys to pause this and think about the last few reels or TikToks that you watched, because I guarantee you almost most of you will not remember the last 3 that you watched. And then comment them if you do remember them, because it will be interesting to see if you do remember what you learned. Because if I'm doom scrolling, my mind is somewhere else. But yeah. Anyway, that's really random, but yeah.
I actually really wanted to ask you this question from the perspective of a content creator. Do you think it's possible to intentionally doom scroll? Is it something you can mindfully do?
Yes, I think it's entirely possible to doom scroll mindfully.
What a
Because
sentence.
I know that sounds so silly, but I think if I'm doing like research, let's say I'm working in marketing and I'm releasing a product. If I'm looking for product releasing videos, I will stay on track. I will not get distracted. I'll just like scroll and like save all the videos and whatever and get ideas, and then I'll feel really inspired. And it's a very creative thing for me. Like I can see someone's video and then I can be like, how can I turn this into something that relates to what I want to do? But sometimes there are times where I go in without a plan. I'm like, let me just see what's trending right now. And that's where I would say it's doom scrolling, because I never find anything. Like 9 times out of 10, I don't find something. If I just go on my phone and I'm like, I don't know what to post today, like let me scroll, and I just keep scrolling, I'm never going to find what I want to post. So I always have to have my own ideas first. That's what I would say if I'm looking to mindfully doom scroll.
I love that. Super interesting. So that was a little deep dive into our experiences growing up with technology and how we got our devices quite late, and our introduction to technology was through mainly our Nokia brick phones. So we just wanted to expand the conversation to include the broader generation of ours, which is Gen Z. Touch on, I guess, defining moments about our generation that were to do with technology and technological advances and developments. And we also wanted to do a quick comparison of maybe what the experiences were like for other generations, for example, millennials and Gen Alpha. So just to give you some context, what we talk about when we say Generation Z is anyone that was born between around 1997 and 2010. So that is technically our generation. Millennials go before that, so that's 1981 to around 1996. And Gen Alpha is after us, so 2010 to 2024. Now, I did a little bit of research, and it turns out that the first iPhone that was ever created by Apple was actually launched in 2007, which is in our generation. But honestly, Ebony and I were quite young. We were like toddlers or something.
Yeah.
So it's probably not something that
like
we
4 or
were.
something.
Yeah, yeah.
Why did I think it was way earlier than that? I don't know.
Exactly. Like, how crazy is that? We really just grew up with iPhones. But yeah, as we said, we were super young tots, so probably didn't know of this launch, but it is something that came during our generation. So surprising little tidbit, and also something that probably defined our generation, especially for Ebony and I, was the COVID-19 lockdowns. And so for Ebony and I, we actually graduated from school and did most of our last 2 years of schooling online, which was kind of crazy because, as we said, we went to a Steiner school, and we never in a million years would have imagined that that whole Steiner education would be transferred into an online system. And so we were trying to navigate, especially teachers being very new to the tech domain, which was quite the struggle. We were trying to socialize online, we were trying to self-isolate, but at the same time stay connected. But then technology, you know, there's always issues with technology. So yeah, I just wanted to pick your brain a little bit, Ebony. What was your experience like going through the COVID-19 pandemic and doing school completely online?
I found it actually in one way, and I know May can relate to this, I loved lockdown. I found it very cool to just kind of focus on myself for a little bit. On the other hand, schooling was so hard during lockdown, and of course I'm so grateful to have all like the platforms that we had, like Zoom and everything, but can you just imagine like kind of what we've told you about going to a Steiner school and then just suddenly trying to move that said Steiner school education online? That was not easy. They did a good job though. But the thing is, I know that a lot of people our age, their school let them have a little break, or they just had to come into one class a day and then do work by themselves. No, we had to follow our exact school schedule. Like we had to wake up, have our 8 a.m. class. We just had all the classes and everything. So I found it really hard because I had to sit at my laptop for like 8 hours a day, and I just remember feeling so sleepy and tired after finishing studying, because we'd have to do 8 hours of class online, or 6 to 8 hours, and then after that, on top of everything else, we had to do our assignments after school. So I remember looking at my screen time on my laptop when we were in lockdown, and it would have been sometimes 12 hours a day, 10 to 12 hours a day on my laptop. And I don't know, but my little Steiner brain and eyes were not ready for that. And I just found it really hard. And I'm not someone who's like, I would say super social. So the social side of things, I think I'm a little introverted. So I know a lot of people struggled with not being able to see their friends all the time. But I'm fine with a cute little phone call and stuff and hanging out with my family. I spend a lot of time cooking and I love doing that. So for me, it was fine. But yeah, what do you think, May? How did you find it?
I completely agree with you, and I'm so grateful that my family and my friends were all very, very safe and maintained their health during the lockdowns. I think that would have been such a different story if they were also battling their health. Yeah, for sure. So in that sense, I was so lucky to be able to exercise a lot of my free time during that period when we were in lockdown. I felt like I really thrived in that period, and I would also say like socializing was okay because in not a weird way, I realized that I could actually be a better friend to myself during that time. And I did so much like mindfulness things and like self-care things, and I was like, oh, this is so great because I had that time to actually take care of myself. But yes, as Ebony said, spending so much time online for education purposes was not ideal at all. As you mentioned, Ebony, we had to do assignments on top of 8 to 4 p.m. classes. Yeah, there was definitely a strain to my eyes. So I had one class in particular that was so memorable because I was a little brat, believe it or not, during high school. And there was one particular class that I just despised. And during the offline face-to-face days, I would just be such a brat to the teacher, and I am so eternally apologetic for that because she did her best to keep me entertained, but I was just having none of it. Sometimes I would literally not even show up in class because that's how bratty I was. So yeah, I was very dismissive.
You were the only one in that class.
No, that's the thing. That's the thing that made it so awkward because I was the only student in the class.
Our school was so small that May was the only student. So just keep that in mind. She was not a brat.
Keep that
it was
in
just
mind.
like a little bit of a...
No, I was a brat because imagine you have one student in your class and they don't show up. Anyway, so I actually continued being a brat online. I would literally show up for class online and the teacher would ask me questions and I would just sit there like my mic completely mute.
May! You are terrible. Bro, she was just talking to herself at that point.
No, she was. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't. Essentially, I was a little brat and Zoom didn't help because then I could actually press a mute button and I could just turn the volume all the way down. You know what? My bad. It was terrible. But yeah, that's just something that I remember.
May, I have a bit of a switch up question. Would you have preferred to grow up as a millennial or a Gen Alpha with technology? Because for like millennials, they would have had access to not much technology. And you know what? I have older cousins and I hear the way they kind of grew up. It sounded so much more fun. Whereas Gen Alpha, I feel like have a lot of technology and you see a lot more like iPad kids.
I would say I definitely don't want to be a Gen Alpha, and I'm so grateful that I'm not. No hate to Gen Alphas, but your life seems crazy, bro. Like, I could not imagine more technology in my life and more dependency on technology than what I have already now, and that's with a childhood mostly growing up without technology. So, if anything, I think I was
AI,
more...
like growing up with AI.
Oh my gosh. That's something that was introduced to us. Like, we had like fully functioning cognitive capacity to think critically about AI, but people who are growing up now just grew up with AI. Like that just seems so crazy to me. Like the world is already chaotic. Yeah, it just sounds really crazy. How about you, Ebony?
I feel like definitely I would want to grow up as a millennial versus Gen Alpha because I don't want to be an iPad kid for one. But also, I was actually telling May this the other day and I was like, can you imagine growing up and our parents were like addicted to their phones or something? Because I had parents who were like very present, like very, very present. And I just can't imagine if there was phones and AI and all of that introduced as well. Not that it would be my mum addicted to her phone, but she'd be more distracted because people would be texting her more or there would be more notifications going off and she'd be using AI for something. I don't really know. My mom doesn't really know how to use AI, but I don't think I would have liked that because I see moms walking around with their kids at the shops or something and they're on their phones and their kids are just kind of like neglected almost, but I wouldn't like it. I'm really happy I grew up when I did. And also on the AI thing, I am so happy I did my full schooling without AI because I actually
Oh my
remember when it was
gosh.
introduced to me. It was my first year of university, and my teacher was talking about AI and kind of the future of work in my discipline and what that means with AI and everything and how to work along AI. I feel like my whole degree has been kind of employability skills that we can develop to work alongside AI, and it's actually been kind of cool to see how it's developed from the very beginning. I'm happy I was, as May said, able to use my critical thinking skills without having to rely on something like AI. And of course, I'm sure they've changed school programs and things to kind of educate kids about AI, but I'm glad I grew up when I did. But being a millennial would be cool. I hear my cousins talking about things they did when they were growing up, and MSN, Pick, and all the apps and everything, and it just sounds so
Yeah.
much fun. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And just on the terms of family relationships, especially between a parent and a child, that brought up a question in me that I wanted to ask you. And we can just kind of debate about this, but do you think, is there a right age to introduce technology to children?
I think this is a hot topic at the moment with the social media ban because everyone's talking about kids deserve to be on social media. I've seen so much on TikTok, especially before the ban, of kids coming on with their parents debating and almost protesting, being like, keep us on social media. This is my creative outlet and whatever. But I would say personally, I think kids should not have social media. I feel like there's other ways to connect. I always hear my parents talking about how they used to just ride to each other's houses and hang out at the park and do all this stuff. And I just feel like kids are becoming less like kids. I even see reels of kids dressing up how an adult would dress, and I just think they don't need that influence. Also with cyberbullying, you don't want it to start that young. Kids need to just be kids. But I also see it as a way, yes, it's great to stay connected, but I'm surely you can wait. I think at least under 13 should be banned from social media. I think maybe 15, 16, I get why they would be upset about not having social media because my brother, he's had social media since he was probably 15, and he's always on there connecting, messaging people, they send voice notes to each other all the time. I can see both sides, but I feel like I'm leaning more towards I think it's a positive thing for kids not to have social media. I think people should start to be introduced to that kind of world as they're a little bit older and they have a bit more awareness of the world and everything.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Oh, yes. So just to give the audience a bit of context, we both grew up in Australia, and there has actually been a nationwide social media ban, I think a first of its kind actually in the world, that was developed in Australia. So now we have actual restrictions for young teens and young adults. This is just a little bit from UNICEF that I got, but from 10th of December 2025, so last year, anyone under 16 in Australia won't be able to keep or make accounts on social media apps like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, etc. And the point of the new law was meant to improve social media safety through the delayed access. And so my opinion is quite aligned with this social media ban. At the same time, I can speak so freely about it because I am not part of the ban, if that makes sense. So I can empathize with those who are being impacted by this. But something that really struck me from my work back in the day when I used to be a gymnastics coach for young kiddies, and these were 1 to 4-year-old kiddies. I remember talking to a parent and they were saying, yeah, we decided the other day to introduce I think it was a 2-year-old, to her first ever iPad. And they realized very, very quickly how addictive that was for that 2-year-old child. And so they tried to take away that iPad, and they were like, no more iPad time. And that caused so many behavioral issues, anger, tantrums, all of that. They had to work so much harder to, I guess, fill that space that was taken over by iPad and tech time, I guess. And they were like, May, what we realized was that it's very easy to introduce technology into a child's life, but it's very, very difficult to take it away from their life. And I think that's the struggle that we're all, working through as parents, as children, as young adults, of we have been already introduced to this technology, but without any considerations to how it will impact our mental health. And now we have to reframe that, restart our relationship with something that we already think we know and depend on a lot.
I was just going to say about that. I was trying to word it, but you worded that perfectly, because I was thinking about if I was under 16 and I had already been introduced to social media, it would be so hard to take that away and be like, you can't use it anymore. So that's why I was like, yeah, I understand. But it's because you have to kind of ban it at some point. There's going to be a point where you have to ban it for kids who have already used it and whatever. Like maybe kids
Yeah.
born now and as they're growing up and they're not able to access it because of the ban. Of course, that would be easier for them to be like, oh, it's fine. I don't mind. When I'm 16, I'll get social media. But as of right now, I can see why it's such an issue. And you worded that perfectly.
So I feel like we've covered a lot of background of the introduction to technology in our generation, and also a lot about the doom and gloom of, I guess, the societal and mental health and generational impacts that technology has had on our lives. But it is not all doom and gloom. And Ebony, do you want to explain maybe some of the things of how technology has positively impacted your life?
Yeah. Well, I think technology, for one, there's bad sides to it, but there can be so many good things to it, and I'm so grateful for technology. I was actually talking to my mom a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about how last year I was overseas and I was traveling, and my dad was actually saying, he was like, it actually didn't feel like you were gone for that long because we rang you like once or twice a day. One thing about me is that I always will ring my family when I'm away. And Dad was saying how when he was younger, he went to Western Australia for a bit and lived there. We lived in Canberra, so it was quite far. And the only way he could stay in contact was if he rang by like the pay phone on a Sunday night, because he knew everyone would be at my grandma's for Sunday night dinner, so he'd always ring then. And I was like, that would be
So
crazy to me.
cute.
I actually don't know if I could have solo traveled without technology. Like, I don't think I would have been able to do it. And I was talking to my auntie who solo traveled before technology, like back in the day, and she was like, yeah, it was really hard. You didn't know if a hostel was going to be good. You couldn't check reviews or anything like that. And I was just thinking, wow, I feel like everything's so easy and accessible for us now. That's such a great thing about social media. And another thing I would say is, you could meet someone overseas, you'll make friends with them, and you can stay in contact with them. I have friends from America and I have friends from Canada, and I'm able to still keep in contact with them. And even May and I, as soon as we graduated school, May moved away from Canberra. So we have been so grateful for technology for our friendship, because long distance friendship's hard. But I'm able to film this podcast with May, and she's in a different country. She's in the Philippines. I'm in Australia, and we're still able to do this. So I think I'm very grateful for social media. I'm very grateful to be able to keep in contact, and like with our busy lives and everything, I think it's so cool to be able to easily just text someone, easily just send them a funny video that reminds me of them. I love that. And also, obviously, I'm a content creator. If you didn't know, I make like a lot of TikToks and whatever, and I have been able to build up the most amazing community online, so much so that when I go out, I'm able to like meet people who follow me, and we just have a really nice connection, because I guess if they followed me, they kind of have the same mindset as me, or like interested in the same things. That has been amazing. I've met people from all over the world that follow me on TikTok, and I just think it's so cool to kind of have built that community. May, what do you think? What are some positives for you about social media?
Can I just say, the craziest thing was that when Ebony came to visit me in the Philippines, somebody recognized her on the streets. And also, some of
Wait,
my
really?
friends
When
already
was that?
followed her.
Oh yeah, they were so
Yeah.
nice, yeah. The weirdest time I got recognized was actually when I was in the Dolomites. I was volunteering on a farm, and the lady who like owned the farm, she took us on a little adventure to this lake. She drove us to this amazing lake. You've probably seen it all over like Instagram and everything. It's beautiful. It's called Lago de Braz, I think. We were just sitting on the side of the lake in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of Italy, and we're just talking, and then I just see this girl like looking at me, because I was vlogging, of course I was. I look over, and then this girl's like, Ebony, right? Like, Ebony May, is that you? And I'm like, huh? And then just everyone like all the people I was with from the farm were like, what the heck? Ebony, what's going on? Because they just didn't know that I did TikTok yet. But yeah, it was so funny. That was the most random place I've met someone. So I
See,
like
and
it.
that's the power of social media and technology. We have such a globalized community. And just to answer your question, Ebony, I guess, yes, technology has made a lot of positive impacts in my life, specifically about social connections. I flew to Germany when I was 16, so I have global connections there.
Yeah.
And then I did an exchange in the Philippines as well at a university, met so many people from around the world. I have family in Japan, so I am very globally connected. And one way that I've been able to stay in touch with everyone has been through technology and accessing digital spaces where we can connect and chat and call and things like that. And yeah, it's been definitely a blessing. I remember having to use those like old home phones when I wanted to call my grandma, for example, when I was growing up. And it just felt so weird because I couldn't see her face. And it was just this like small raspy voice from the end of a phone line, just like, May, how are you? You know? And now I get to message her, I get to see her face, video call, things like that. And right now, as Ebony said, I'm in the Philippines and my family lives everywhere. My family lives everywhere. When we have family calls, we need to set like a time zone to call. But I'm still grateful that we get to connect despite the diversity of where we are located. We still get to come into one space, even if it's a digital space, and we get to chat and like converse about life. So yeah, I think that's on a social aspect. And then I think, Ebony, you'll agree on this, but it really has been the crux of like productivity in terms of like education, especially using
Notion.
Yes, I was going to say Notion. I didn't want to like shout out Notion. Sponsor us, guys. No, we use Notion like it is our highest being. We use it religiously. Let's just say that. Our whole life runs on Notion and Canva. And yeah, I don't know how I could function in this very stressful life without the digital tools and the apps that I have to help me get through it. So yeah, a lot of positives. There's obviously things that we have to be mindful about and the risks and the harms that may be involved with using technology and navigating ourselves within an online world. But yeah.
So I feel like, May, we've discussed a lot about our journeys with social media, technology, the online world, everything, both the pros and the cons. I feel like we were sounding a bit like, technology these days, but seriously, technology is amazing. So we talked a little bit about our schooling and how we use technology in our schooling. We talked a little bit about our feelings towards technology and also different generations using technology and how they kind of navigated that. It was a bit of like a mixed bag of topics this episode, but I feel like it's just cool to sit down and discuss all of this because I feel like we can so subconsciously rely on technology and just not even think about it. But when you think about how amazing are our lives because of technology. Yeah. So thanks so much for listening to our episode.
If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening to this and leave a review also. It makes a world of a difference for us. We are such a small podcast and we are up and growing and we want to connect with a lot more people. And you can also join the conversation by following us on Instagram or TikTok at ruok.pod. So that is RUOCAKE.pod.
Also, the next episode will be my solo episode, and I'm really excited for this one because I feel like I get a lot of questions on how I started out doing social media and what it's like kind of being a quote-unquote influencer, content creator. So my next episode is going to be a solo episode, and I'm going to do a deep dive on everything that I wish that I knew before I started social media as part of our Digital Age series. So I'm really excited for that one. So just wanted to give a little shout out to that. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to listen to our other ones. And May has an exciting solo episode coming your way just after that one as well. So thank you so much for listening to our podcast today. We really appreciate it and we hope you enjoyed.
Have the best day, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.